secret codes are, all sorts of. What else have you got on there? My mates' addresses. You know a lot about me.
Yeah, your friends. They must love you.
By the way, this is you guys, the two of you, Aequitas and Taylor Smith Forensics, your private forensics companies. My guest in the first hour was talking. He's been a forensic scientist for 30 years, and for much of his career, it was all owned by the government. We're going to Michael Gove now. Sorry, I was going to come on to a very important point, but that's one that's a little too technical and tedious anyway. We will get into the more exciting area of analysing evidence after we've heard from Michael Gove, who's making this what he has called important statement to the Commons.
Keeping our children safe and ensuring our schools prepare them for life in modern Britain could not be more important. It is my department's central mission. Allegations made in what has become known as the Trojan Horse Letter suggested that children were not being kept safe in Birmingham schools. Ofsted and the Education Funding Agency have investigated those allegations. Their reports and other relevant documents have today been placed in the library of the House. Let me set out their findings and my actions. Ofsted states that head teachers reported an organised campaign to target schools in order to alter their character and ethos with a culture of fear and intimidation. Head teachers who had a record of raising standards reported they had been marginalised or forced out of their jobs. One school leader was so frightened about speaking to the authorities that a meeting had to be arranged in a supermarket car park. Ofsted concluded that governors are trying to impose and promote a narrow, faith-based ideology in what are non-faith schools, specifically by narrowing the curriculum, manipulating staff appointments, and using school funds inappropriately. Overall, Ofsted inspected 21 schools. 3 were good or outstanding. 12 were found to require improvement. The remaining 6 are inadequate and are in special measures. Let me explain why. At one secular primary school, terms such as white prostitute, unsuitable for primary children's ears, were used in Friday assemblies run exclusively by Muslim staff. The school organised visits to Saudi Arabia, open only to Muslim pupils. And senior leaders told inspectors that a madrasa had been established and been paid for from the school's budget. Ofsted concluded the school was not adequately ensuring that pupils have opportunities to learn about faith in a way that promotes tolerance and harmony between different cultures. At one secular secondary school, staff told officials the call to prayer was broadcast over the playground using loudspeakers. Officials observed lessons had been narrowed to comply with conservative Islamic teachings. In biology, students were told, evolution is not what we believe. The school invited the preacher, Sheikh Shadi al-Sulaiman, to speak, despite the fact that he is reported to have said, "Give victory to Muslims in Afghanistan. Give victory to all the mujahideen all over the world. O Allah, prepare us for the jihad." Ofsted concluded that governors failed to ensure that safeguarding requirements and other statutory duties were met. At another secular secondary school, inspectors described a state of crisis, with governors reportedly using school funds to pay private investigators to read the emails of senior leaders. Ofsted found a lack of action to protect students from extremism. At a third secular secondary school, Ofsted found students were vulnerable to the risk of marginalisation from wider British society and the associated risks, which include radicalisation. And at a secular primary, Ofsted found that pupils have limited knowledge of religious beliefs other than Islam, and subjects such as art and music have been removed at the insistence of the governing body. Inspectors concluded that the school does not adequately prepare students for life in modern Britain. Ofsted also report failures on the part of Birmingham City Council. They found the council did not deal adequately with repeated complaints from head teachers. School leaders expressed very little confidence in the local authority, and Ofsted concluded that Birmingham had not exercised adequate judgment. Mr. Speaker, these findings demand a robust, but also a considered response. It is important that no one allows concern about these findings to become a pretext for criticism of Islam itself, a great faith which brings spiritual nourishment to millions and daily inspires countless acts of generosity. The overwhelming majority of British Muslim parents want their children to grow up in schools that open doors rather than close minds, and it is on their behalf that we have to act. There are, of course, critical questions about whether warning signs were missed. There are questions for Birmingham Council, Ofsted, and the Department for Education. I have today asked Birmingham Council to review their history on this issue, and the Chief Inspector has advised me he will be considering the lessons learned for Ofsted. I am also concerned that the DFE may not have acted when it should. I'm asking the Permanent Secretary to investigate how my department dealt with warnings, both since the formation of this government in 2010 and before. We all must acknowledge that there has been a failure in the past. Counter extremism in public services, with help from former intelligence and security professionals. That unit has developed since 2010, and we will continue to strengthen it. Ofsted now train inspectors to understand and counter extremist Islamist ideology, and inspections of schools at risk, like those in Birmingham, are carried out by the most senior inspectors, overseen by Michael Wilshaw himself. But there is, of course, more to do, and today's reports make action urgent. First, we need to take action in the schools found inadequate. Academies will receive letters saying I'm minded to terminate funding agreements. Local authority schools are having governors replaced. We've already spoken to successful academy providers who are ready to act as sponsors. We need to strengthen our inspection regime even further. The requirement to give notice of inspections clearly makes it more difficult to identify and to detect the danger signs. Sir Michael Wilshaw and I have argued in the past that no notice inspections can help identify when pupils are at risk. I've asked him to consider the practicalities of moving to a situation where all schools know they may receive an unannounced inspection. I will also work with Sir Michael Wilshaw to ensure, as he recommends, that we can provide greater public assurance that all schools in a locality discharge their full statutory responsibilities. And we will consider how Ofsted can better enforce the existing requirement that all schools teach a broad and balanced curriculum. I've talked today to the leader of Birmingham Council and requested that it sets out an action plan to tackle extremism and keep children safe. We already require independent schools, academies and free schools to respect British values. Now, we will consult on new rules that will strengthen this standard further, requiring all those schools actively to promote British values. And I will ask Ofsted to enforce an equivalent standard on maintained schools through changes to the Ofsted framework. Several of the governors whose activities have been investigated by Ofsted have also been active in the Association of Muslim Schools UK, which has statutory responsibilities in relation to state Muslim faith schools. So we have asked AMS UK to satisfy us that they are doing enough to protect children from extremism, and we will take appropriate steps if their guarantees are insufficiently robust. I've also spoken to the National College for Teaching and Leadership, and we will further strengthen the rules so that from now on it is explicit that a teacher inviting an extremist speaker into a school can be banned from the profession. I will, of course, report in July on progress in all the areas that I've announced, as well as publishing the findings of the report of Peter Clark, who's investigating the background behind many of the broader allegations in the Trojan Horse letter. The steps we are taking today are those that we consider necessary to protect our children from extremism and to protect our nation's traditions of tolerance and liberty. The conclusions of the reports today are clear. Things that should not have happened in our schools were allowed to happen. Our children were exposed to things they should not have been exposed to. As Education Secretary, I'm taking decisive action to make sure that those children are protected. Schools that are proven to have failed will be taken over, put under new leadership, and taken in a fresh, new direction. Any school could now be subject to rigorous, on-the-spot inspections, with no advance warning and no opportunities to conceal failure. And we will put the promotion of British values at the heart of what every school has to deliver for children. What we have found was unacceptable, and we will put it right. I commend this statement to the House.
Mr. Speaker.
Okay, there was Michael Gove. Michael Gove speaking in the Commons. John Pienaar, what's the headline from that?
Well, the report that was delivered by Michael, the head of Ofsted, Wilshaw, was extraordinary in the breadth and the range of the accusations and findings among these schools that were investigated for extremism. The list included some we've heard about, some went further. In an assembly mention of a white prostitute. There were school trips available only to Muslims. There was art and music education that was swept to one side for ideological, theological reasons. And this, it was said, was against the background of a culture of intimidation and bullying of staff and head teachers, to the extent that one school leader was said to have had to meet the inspectors in a car park to avoid detection. And the list went on. There was an extraordinary story told by Michael Gove. The council, Birmingham Council, didn't escape criticism. They were said to have not reacted to complaints from senior school leaders. Their duty was questioned in that way. And in the round, it's every bit the dramatic story of the imposition of a particular culture on a British state community school. And the measures, well, they would include banning a teacher, for example, who invited a so-called hate preacher to speak at the school. There was the threat of on-the-spot, announced inspections by Ofsted, and teachers being banned in certain circumstances. And you heard the list there. So we'll hear the Labour response now, but that was the background. Earlier from Theresa May, we had the internal government row that surrounded all of this, with the Home Secretary and the Education Secretary, as it were, bickering, and in one extraordinary case in public, with publishing a piece of cabinet correspondence on a government website. And we know what happened there. A special advisor to the Home Secretary has been moved on, and the Education Secretary has had to apologise to the Prime Minister. That's what's gone on inside the Westminster bubble, extraordinary as it was. But the wider story is extraordinary too. And we're now seeing the debate unfold about how one deals with extremism, non-violent extremism, in this case, in schools, carrying, though, as it's argued to do, the risk of development from there into links with the wider extremist community and even into violence.
Okay, thank you, John. So we're in our live space, which is between the two main radio studios here at the BBC's Salford facility. We have a forensic crime-fighting special today. Mike Silverman was on in the first hour. 30 years man and boy, is a forensic scientist working with the police. We have three excellent guests with me in our live space. Ken Bagshaw, founder of 3DSI, specialised in digital reconstruction of crime scenes. Jane Laponis is here from the Taylor Smith Forensics. They specialise in making CCTV images better because they are generally rubbish. And Glenn Siddall is here, head of Aequitas Forensics. They specialise in recovering electronic data. He's been looking at an old phone of mine, has worked out my bank details, where I live, date of birth probably.
Yep.
Did you get date of birth? What did you get?
I can get that off Wikipedia, I don't need to.
Yeah, that is true. Although I think Wikipedia says I was born in Bangladesh. You can't entirely rely on it. But a lot. We'll come on to what you found on the phone in just a second. So hello everybody. Hello everyone. Welcome to our live space. We'll start with Ken Bagshaw. Now Ken, you're a former head of the Forensics Crime Scene Survey Unit at Manchester Police. So you worked with the forensic team at Manchester Police. Now you've set up your own company. So you've decided to go and make some money, in other words.
Well, that's the game plan.
Yeah.
But it takes some time to obviously get established.
You've only done this a couple of years, haven't you, right?
Going on for 3 years now.
3 years.
We're based at the Sharp project over in East Manchester.
Just on a wider point, Mike Silverman was saying to me earlier that we are the only Western country that doesn't have a state forensic service, which does seem strange, doesn't it? I understand why you might get a private company to enhance CCTV images, because often police will bring in technical experts. You might get a private company to look at an old mobile phone because you're a technical expert. You buy in expertise, that's fine. But it's a bit more confusing as to why you would introduce the profit motive into going to a murder scene and looking at how the blood has fallen on the floor.
I don't think it's so much a profit motive. It's just that the services with the cutbacks in especially the police service, have obviously opened up the market to private individuals and private companies, and simply because that service.
But that means the company's making money out of investigating a violent sexual assault, doesn't it?
Well, basically, somebody has to do it. And what we're doing is...
Yeah, but the police used to do it, or it used to be the state used to do it.
But there was always especially with specialised services, who paid for it? Was it the police or was it the CPS? There was always a grey area between who actually picked up the final bill.
But here, but to come back to what we're talking about here, this is slightly different. This is specialism, isn't it? So it's all really interesting stuff. I promise you, dear listener, have a listen. So, Ken, your company, 3DSI, and what you primarily do is you digitally recreate crime scenes. Ken, tell me more.
Basically, I do 3D laser scanning of crime scenes. And what that does, not to get too technical, is to create a three-dimensional point cloud. What you can do with that point cloud is put the colour content on. So what it gives you is an instantaneous 3D crime scene reconstruction.
Yeah, okay. So you can, on a computer screen, walk around the crime scene. Is that
Okay,
the idea? Show me, Ken.
Yeah,
Split that
yeah,
computer
of
as I
course,
can see it. I imagine you can see us as well if you go to bbc.co.uk/5 live, sitting in the prestigious live space here. Okay, so what you've done here, that's a bedroom, is it?
No, this is the studio.
It's a studio.
That's
this studio.
We're actually sat in, yeah. So
Fine,
just bear with
sorry.
me a second.
Oh yes, there are these familiar garish colours of the BBC Salford facility.
Now we're
Gosh, that's amazing. God, that's clever. So what you've done there is you've created a 3D image. It's a bit like looking at a floor plan for a property, but it's 3D, and you've included the outer walls, the logo is on there, the glass doors, the carpet. How have you captured that in such detail?
That's the 3D laser scanning process.
So there's a camera, you just walk around here with a camera, do
It's
you?
not actually a camera, it's a 3D laser. And what that does is actually scan the room. So what you can actually see is what you actually get a return from, which gives you the 3D point cloud.
It's fantastic. It's amazingly detailed. So a laser can read things like logos.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if we actually zoom in, we can get some real content, real detail.
How long does it take you to scan that?
Each scan is about 10 minutes, between 6 and 10 minutes, and then
So that takes 10 minutes. What I'm looking at there, which is a perfect 3D recreation of this very room, it takes 10 minutes for scanning.
That's 4 scans, so that's about
40 minutes.
Between half an hour and 40 minutes, yeah.
It's, that can be done that quickly is remarkable. I would imagine they would have assumed that that's days of work. How often do the police call you in to create a 3D image of a crime scene?
I actually specialise now in taking this out to the police services overseas, so I actually teach this. But as far as police services are concerned, some of them have their own 3D laser scanning services, and some of them, believe it or not, don't actually go down this process. So this is cutting edge technology which only a few police services have the ability to.
But you can provide this service. It doesn't just have to be for crime scenes, does it?
No, this is for everything. I mean, this is used in engineering, it's used in architecture, it's used in heritage. So this
can do that in 40 minutes.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, this is technology. We're right at the cutting edge of technology. So.
Yeah.
And this particular scanner used to be limited to 120 metres as far as the range is concerned. Now the one that I've actually got can go up to 330 metres.
Okay, thank you, Ken. Let's talk to the other two guests as well whilst you're here. We have, as I said, Glenn Siddall is here. Glenn Siddall, digital forensics expert, founder of Aequitas Forensics. Hello, Glenn.
Hello.
So I gave you an old phone of mine. It is quite old. I think I've not used it for a couple of years.
Yeah, there's a lot of 09 stuff on there.
09, what's that mean? Oh, the year 2009. Yeah, that's probably the last time I used it.
Yeah.
So you went in there, you worked out what my passcode was.
Yep.
How'd you do that?
I'm not going to tell you.
Why not?
Because everybody will be at it, won't they? I'll tell you later. I'll tell you when we go off there.
Okay. Okay, that's exciting. Listeners, I'll share it with you in the podcast. But this is interesting in terms of what you can learn from a phone, because most of us at some point or another will have left a phone lying around. So talk me through, you've prepared a file here on what you got from my old phone that I gave you, an iPhone 4 from 2009-10. What did you get out of it, Glenn?
Well, we got everything out of it, basically. If I just find out there. We got all your old contacts, your Bluetooth devices that you're connected to, iMessage contacts, you name it. If it was on the phone, we've recovered it.
Right. Give me some specific examples of things that you got.
Well, photographs mainly.
Because the truth is, actually, I'm not nervous about this because the stuff I keep on my phone is generally quite boring. I imagine some people would get quite tense at this point as to what might be uncovered. There's nothing that interesting on my phone.
To a criminal.
To
maybe.
a criminal? Okay,
Yeah.
go on. What you got?
Well, the fact that you took a photograph of your bank card was quite useful.
That is hilarious. That was true. As my wife needed to pay for something somewhere, and she needed.
You texted it to her.
So I
didn't you?
texted
Yeah.
both sides of my bank card. Is that a schoolboy error, Glenn? Should you not be
Yeah.
texting photos of your bank card to people?
Leave that in your wallet.
What about if I deleted it? I thought I had deleted it.
Well, the deletion process doesn't always get rid of it either. People, again, like me, can recover that. So
You can recover a photo that I've deleted on my phone.
yes.
How?
Again, everybody be at it if I told you.
Can you recover all photos or just
No,
some
no.
photos? How can you ensure, here's a good question, that a photo that you've deleted is deleted properly, deleted for good?
You can't.
Okay, so
The answer.
why are some photos unrecoverable then?
Ordinarily, because once they've been deleted, a more recent photograph has been taken and it's overwritten the old photograph. So as a result, it's no longer resident on the handset.
Okay, but you can't really control that.
No.
Anything else you got of interest? Show me the file.
Well, yeah. I mean, I know where you live now, which is pretty good. Within the photographs that you took, the GPS coordinates of the photographs were embedded within it.
Yeah.
So as a result, I was able to look for the geographical location where you took those photos, and we could see your house.
You can see my house. You can see that photo, that Ferrari. That's at Chris Evans's house.
Yeah, luckily you had location services turned off there, so I don't know where that Ferrari
There's
is.
a lot of photos of my house. Your address is slightly wrong. You've got my road correct, but you've got the number of the house wrong. However, you've got loads of photos of my house. So you put together my street with the photo of the house and bingo.
And we've got your bank card, so it's,
And you've got my bank card as well. Okay, listen, just some sad news to bring you that has just been reported, which is that the comedian and the actor Rick Mail has died. So Rick Mail has died. A spokesman for his management has just announced this, that Rick Mail has died. I think arguably one of the all-time great comedy actors, really. Rick Mail, a fantastic performer. We'll hear tributes to Rick Mail on Drive a little bit later. Jane, you are Jane Laponis, and along with your business partner Wendy Lomas Williams, you run Taylor Smith Forensics. Tell us, and you're a former TV camera operator, is that right?
Yes.
But one of the things that you do, that your branch of private forensic work does, is you enhance CCTV images. And
Yeah.
you've got some examples here in front
Yes.
of you. People can look at us by going to bbc.co.uk/5live. Jane, tell me about your work.
Well, as you can see by these examples, that's attempts to enhance, like the van, the registration plate. And because of the quality of the footage isn't like you would film in television, which is 25 frames per second, this one in particular was 12 frames per second. So there's lots of data and signal information missing. So because we can't enhance, even using a waveform monitor, for example, trying to get the brightness levels and lighten things up like with the wheels, all we could do really was follow from multiple locations the van that was of interest to the police and pinpoint artifacts in that image to try and create a storyline. We use the same edit suites that you would in television, Avid and Final Cut Pro.
Right.
And use various filters, specialised equipment and hardware to bring out what we can and denoise, various forensic practices using filters, as mentioned before, just to try and paint a picture of what that van a picture from multiple locations following this van, and we've matched the van. For example, in this example here, I've brought out the wheels. Looking at the wheels, that's actually the best enhancement that could be
you've
done.
really enhanced the wheel.
Yeah,
And the gap between the picture quality, I mean, is that from a photo and you've just matched the photo with what looks
Yes,
good?
this is a
That's
van that
perfect.
was
I get
seized.
that. What's new in this? What's the new science in the way that you can enhance CCTV?
I think the fact it's fantastic that CCTV is getting better and better with high definition.
It's still a bit rubbish. I mean, even
It
you
is
look at
rubbish,
these-
yeah.
It is, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
These stills here of this van
Yeah.
you're talking about.
That took me
It's
about 10
yellow,
days
The van
to
is
do.
yellow in that picture. It
Yeah.
clearly wasn't yellow in
No.
reality. It's grainy. There's a blue splotch patch across the middle of the picture. You cannot read the reg
No.
plate. That in this day and age, you think how good the cameras are on Samsung phones, on the latest
Yeah.
Apple, right, the latest iPhones. They're now almost as good a quality as quite an expensive professional camera that you might buy as a specialist. And yet, CCTV cameras that are much bigger than the thing embedded in a Samsung phone are giving us that rubbish.
But of course, you've got dirty cameras to put up with.
Yeah.
That's the light from the street lights making that look that colour. It's actually a white van. So we have
I guess
to go.
as well, it's
yeah.
all very well saying there's some brand new cameras out there. The cost in replacing all of Britain's CCTV with the latest cameras is
absolutely.
phenomenal. Presumably, in maybe 20 years, they might have caught up with where tiny little cameras are now in flat telephones. It's going to take a long, long time, meaning that you'll be kept in work for many years to come. That's the good news, guys. Thank you for that insight. And this will also all be included on our podcast as well a bit later. But thank you. It just obviously was a bit of a surface level introduction to your work, but it was hugely impressive. Thank you very much indeed. What are you going to do with my bank details now?
Find out how much you've got in your bank account.
Thankfully, that is a bank account that I no longer use. However, if I'm defrauded over the next few months, and unfortunately, Glenn, yours will be the first name that I give to the police.
It's a good job of hiding my tracks, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perk of the job.
Thank you very much indeed. Yeah, that would technically make you an excellent criminal if you wanted to be one.
And fancy from North Manchester.
Thank you very much. So Glenn Siddle of Aequitas, Jane Laponis from Taylor Smith Forensics, Ken Bagshaw from 3DSI, and their friends Sean and Adam who've come see us as well. That's it. Thank you very much indeed. We'll be back tomorrow with some more guests and TV reviews. Coming up with those, some tributes to Rick Mail, who has just been announced.
Here from Brazil's biggest city, Sao Paulo, where 3 days before the start of the World Cup